Born on February 24, 1955, in San Francisco, California, she was adopted by adoptive parents Paul and Clara. His adoptive father dropped out of high school and became a soldier. He joined the California Coast Guard and worked as a patrol boat engineer. After being discharged from the military, she married Clara, had a career in auto maintenance and installment payments, and adopted Steve Jobs when she had no children. Jobs became aware of the existence of a sister named Mona Simpson, a writer, and her mother, a conversation therapist, and her father, a political science professor, in adulthood.
However, he reacts coldly toward his biological parents. He always considered his adoptive parents to be his biological parents. At this time, he met and interacted with Bill Fernandez, his peer, who was interested in the electronics field, and Steve Wozniak, who was 5 years older than him, and had a very positive influence on Steve Jobs. They were all failures at school and loners with self-righteous personalities, but their electronic knowledge, tenacity, and cheerful personalities were similar. At this time, Steve Jobs found out that he was adopted. He recalled that at the time, he was immersed in American hippie culture. After graduating from Homestead High School, he enrolled at Reed College in Portland, Oregon, where he stopped using drugs and studied Eastern philosophy in search of new ideals. However, he quit school after a year and returned to California to work at an electronic game company called Atari, but soon after quit the company and went on a trip to India as a hippie. Although he traveled around the Himalayas in northern India for several months, he returned to the United States and returned to work at Atari without achieving the inner spiritual satisfaction he had hoped for. He created computer games, where he again became acquainted with Wozniak. I received help from someone who had extensive knowledge in the electronics field. Steve Jobs, who had excellent business acumen and marketing sense, was able to realize his idea only with the help of Wozniak, who was a natural electronics engineer. Combining their respective strengths, the two co-founded a computer manufacturing company in 1976. Co-founder Wozniak said, "Steve Jobs, it was a place where Zen Buddhism was practiced in Oregon." He said, "I named it Apple because it reminded me of an apple farm." He created and announced Apple I, a personal computer with only a circuit board. As the personal computer market gained attention at the time, a new computer platform, Apple II, was soon created. The expansion slot was able to improve the functionality, and the innovative operating system was applied. It is made so that people who do not have knowledge of computers can use it without inconvenience. However, business conditions were unfavorable for small businesses. Steve did not give in to this environment and enthusiastically persuaded the vision he believed in. Eventually, the personal computers they created showed a great response in the market and succeeded in selling, and in 1980, they released their shares. He became a billionaire and joined the richest ranks in the United States. She had a daughter, Lisa, from a long-term relationship with Chris Ann, who was not married. But he didn't admit that he was a biological father. After losing the paternity suit, Lisa accepted that she was the parent. He also had a contradictory personality and stinginess. "I was shunned by my friends who helped me in difficult times." But he did not change his attitude and thoughts, and he focused more on realizing his ideal purpose. In the company, we developed Macintosh and Lisa computers. The antagonism between Apple's key engineers and management has intensified. Steve Jobs failed to lead this feud in harmony. After being pushed out of the Lisa project led by Steve Jobs himself, he pushed for the Macintosh project to develop new computers. However, the engineers in charge of the Macintosh project, who trusted and followed him, were dissatisfied with their poor salaries for their efforts. It began to be expressed as a betrayal of Steve Jobs. Finally, in 1984, the company introduced the Macintosh computer against IBM, which was a major success, but a failed Lisa project team and a power game were playing inside the company. Furthermore, sometime after the announcement of Macintosh, people found out that the software available on Mac was insufficient, and sales dropped rapidly.
Those who were fascinated by Macintosh with Steve Jobs' unique style and atmosphere are now complaining of discomfort.
On January 19, 1985, Wozniak was invited to the White House with Wozniak and received the National Medal of Technology from President Reagan, but Wozniak left the company. Finally, Steve was kicked out of the management front in May 1985, after being named as an unrealistic deliverer and a person who had left the company in the downing. After leaving Apple, he founded Next and developed NextStep, the world's first object-oriented operating system, and in 1986 he acquired Pixar from director George Lucas for $10 million. It attempted to develop a graphics-only computer with a next-generation operating system and sell it to the medical industry, but both companies failed to make a profit and put Steve Jobs in crisis. But the engineers and graphic artists who worked on Pixar gave up their hardware businesses. I suggested to Jobs that he make a feature-length animated movie. Jobs did not expect this, but contrary to his opinion, Pixar also showed signs of revival with an animated movie. On March 18, 1991, she married a woman named Lauren Powell in Yosemite National Park and had 3 children. He didn't have confidence in himself when it came to marriage and raising children, but he has changed dramatically from what he used to be. The family was happy, but his business was gradually being pushed to the brink. He was barely surviving by receiving investments through U.S. rejection Ross Perot and Japan's Canon Corporation, and did not seize the opportunity to revive. Tintoy, the prototype of Toy Story, directed by Pixar's John Lester, drew public attention by winning an Academy Award for short animation. But he had not made much money yet, so Jobs was regretting buying Pixar until then. The opportunity came for Steve Jobs in 1996 when Apple, struggling in the red and wanting a new operating system, took over Next. I came back to Apple after 13 years. He worked as a management consultant and contributed to a $400 million surplus. Pixar, which also thought of itself as a useless company, was in line with the huge success of John Lasseter's animated Toy Story. Steve Jobs, who was listed on the stock market and almost broke, became a billionaire at once. Jobs became a board member of Walt Disney when Walt Disney bought Pixar in 2006. In the 2 years that Steve Jobs returned as CEO of Apple, Apple grew in capital from $2 billion to $16 billion. Pixar was recorded as the most successful film company in animation history due to successive box office successes. Steve Jobs, who became more relaxed, turned to the development of new products combined with the new media, the internet, and the target was music. Following the development of iTunes, it developed an MP3 player called the iPod and put it in the ranks of world-class hit products. In 2007, the iPhone was released in Macworld and became a sensational hit around the world. Apple made about $50 billion in revenue. In particular, the iPhone shook the entire telecommunications industry. The cultural ripple effect was also significant. In addition, the release of a tablet computer called the iPad, released in 2010, accelerated changes led by Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was considered a major player in the IT industry, and he was successful. Personally, he suffered from health problems such as rare cancer. He underwent surgery for pancreatic cancer in 2004 and a liver transplant in 2009. On August 24, 2011, he resigned as CEO of Apple due to his deteriorating condition. He died on October 5, less than 2 months after his resignation, at the age of 56. The cause of death was a pancreatic neuroendocrine tumor. Steve Jobs passed away in 2011 at the age of 56. His words and innovation live and breathe to this day. "Stay hungry, stay coolish" remains one of his legacies. The story of Steve Jobs gives us constant challenges, innovations. It reminds us of the importance of passion. In what ways were you inspired by Steve Jobs' story? Continue to discover his story and take on new challenges.
If the video helped you, please subscribe and like it.